Hello everyone and welcome back to Cinema Shakedown, the weekly podcast that functions as a grab bag for all things film. I'm your host, Kyle Craigbaum.
And I'm your other host, Jordan Dennis.
And I'm the other host, Dylan Michael Miller.
We have me and Brownface.
the return. The two sides of Kyle. What Kyle wishes he was, and unfortunately what Kyle is.
This is what Kyle sees when he looks in the mirror every morning, like what the life he's manifesting for himself.
What's your name?
Harsh Jaswal, a.k.a. M. Night Shyamalan's adopted son, who he returned to 2 weeks later to the orphanage.
Fucked it up, dude.
Yeah.
Fucked it up.
We're
kicked off the show.
We're not starting over, too. It's,
yeah, man.
You're out.
Listen, he went for it.
Dumbass idiot. Friend of the show, Harsh.
How you doing?
I thought you were going to say friend of the show, M. Night Shyamalan. I was like, oh shit, did he write in?
We were pretty positive.
Residential brown
last
boy
episode.
of Cinema Shakedown.
But yes, I am doing well and always happy to be back.
Hell yeah.
Wonderful.
It's been a good fucking week, fellas, dude.
Kyle, disconnect and reconnect. What are you doing
I was
over
pulling
there?
up Letterboxd to prepare for the show that we're on.
Right.
Fellas, we gotta think back on this week. It's been a good fucking week for society.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Jordan, I've sent you something.
Oh.
I need you to
course, yeah,
read out loud.
Mm-hmm. If there is a slur, I'm not going to say it.
No
But
slur.
okay,
And I'm being sincere about it. You're not going to think I am.
It's not Sydney Sweeney's ass pics, is it? I thought that's absolutely where you were going with
It
this.
is, but follow the instructions I gave you.
Okay, yeah. Anna Victoria becomes world's first lawyer with Down syndrome. Now, here's the first thing about that.
Let's give her a round of applause. That's wonderful.
If all I will say about that is that if I was on trial and I could not afford a lawyer,
Stole it right fucking from me, dude.
and my court-appointed lawyer opens the door in that state, I'm not gonna feel really good about my odds.
I'm so tired of you, dude.
Dude, straight up a South Park episode.
In a way, you know what I would tell myself is that I can't lie about my odds, but I have my
You
sympathy.
just can't let me have the spotlight for 1
I
second,
couldn't,
can
man.
you?
No, I
hate
actually
you so
did not
much.
know that's where you were
That's
going with it. I
exactly what I was
sensed
gonna
it.
do.
I sensed the punchline, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to absorb that real quick.
Unbelievable.
Let me take that
Well,
bullet for you.
anyways, the week sucks. We've had a shitty, terrible fucking week.
Oh, why are we
The
having a bad
world is
week?
fucked. Because he just took my bits.
Okay, that's it.
He just took my. This is why I can't prepare bits for the show.
Right.
This is why I have to spontaneously say slurs.
It's like
It's unpredictable.
all he's got.
He doesn't
And
fucking
this
do it.
is why you're not a real comedian, because
I'm
then
tired of it.
you just make a new bit.
Guys,
then.
I'm sorry. I didn't.
Unbelievable,
I'm sorry. I'm so funny. Like I really didn't mean.
You're
to.
a fucking hack.
I didn't mean
You're
to
a
do it.
hackneyed fucking.
This reminds me of that Key and Peele bit where they're in the class and he makes the high on pot noose joke, and then the other one just says it louder, and everyone else laughs. Oh shit!
I'm the real comedic brain here. He's just the.
That's
fucking
true, actually.
Hackneyed performance.
I'm a meat husk.
You
is
know,
what they say.
You know you're funny, dude. You know I think you're funny.
Speaking of meat husks,
yeah.
Did anyone watch anything? We got a lot of movies to get into.
Insane segue.
I did watch a new movie released, I think it was released earlier this year, called Dee Dee. It was a directorial debut from, I'm forgetting the guy's name, but highly recommend it, about adolescence and coming of age for...
I did that.
Okay. but definitely recommend Dee Dee. Great movie.
Okay, word.
So if I liked like 8th grade and shit like that.
Yes, it's definitely, it's like the Asian 8th grade.
Is it
basically.
like
Honestly, yeah.
like drama, comedy?
More on the comedy side.
Okay, word.
Yeah, I definitely recommend
I remember
it.
seeing the trailer. It looked good.
I've definitely seen people talk about it and the posts, so it's it's in my brain for sure.
It's made for people like us who grew up in the late 2000
the internet
early
era.
2010s. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you guys remember your first cell phone?
Yeah.
We got that shit way
BlackBerry.
too early.
Yes,
It was
Android
flip phone,
too.
BlackBerry.
I think my very
No,
first one.
flip phone BlackBerry. I said cellular, fuck, I'm forgetting the name, but I could play Snake.
I
on my
definitely
phone.
had a Nokia or something like that.
Yeah.
It was like a
Holy
brick,
fuck,
like
you
that
guys
shit.
are
Like
way older than
yeah,
me.
dude, Youngblood.
I had a fucking Android and got made fun of.
No, I had an Android, like a flip open Android.
Damn,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
No, it was touchscreen. It had games on it.
What does
Yeah.
what does Tim Meadows say? Like, fuck you, Youngblood. I will eat your head.
Yeah.
That's me anytime I'm reminded of how youthful and full of life you are.
Yeah. Well.
What I've watched this week, I rewatched Trap. still goes crazy.
Yeah.
I stick to my opinion.
Listen to our Trap and M. Night Shyamalan episode.
100%. And then I watched Twisters, which you
Oh,
were on.
yeah.
I hadn't caught up on that one yet because I was dying. Would
you go so far to say is more like Midsters?
He's back, guys. The Jordan we know and love.
Slightly above average stirs.
Okay.
Yeah. It was. I had fun. I think that there are some fun set pieces. I think that it's got charisma. I just didn't really.
I think the key problem, Kyle, is that you didn't see it in Dolby. Yeah. That is the key
I didn't see it in theaters.
Here,
I didn't see it in theaters, and that is definitely something
that adds so much to the experience.
You watched it at home?
Yeah, I watched it at home.
Yeah, it was one of those unfortunate, they put it on VOD 3 weeks after release.
Yeah.
We live in a dystopia, gang.
Yeah, and I admit that I would have had more fun in a theater for sure.
Yeah, that shit went crazy in Dolby.
It was fine.
And unlike other movies we've seen recently in Dolby, I could actually understand what the actors were saying.
Facts. I actually thought Twisters was way fucking louder, but you could still hear the people.
Yeah, but it's also a tornado movie, so
it's a lot of looking at the
tornadoes are loud as fuck, dude.
Instead of talking while the tornado is hitting.
Did you see the cow?
What?
Did you see the cow in Twister?
No, I missed it.
Oh, okay, word.
Did you guys see anything this week besides?
Still watching Game of Thrones. Still goes crazy.
It wasn't this week, but I did watch Rebel Moon Part 1 and Part 2 director's
Shut
cuts.
up, dude.
I will say.
Shut up.
I'm gonna bring it up.
Wait. How much does it change the movie?
Not much.
Or does it just add some
Not
shit?
much.
Okay, just
the movie
40 minutes.
As the biggest Zack Snyder cocksucker on this planet.
You are, yeah.
The movie, it pains me to say the movies aren't good.
Okay.
But you know that meme where it's like, she's very gorgeous to me. That's how I feel about these movies.
If there are no Zack Snyder fans, check on you. It means you're dead. You ride for Zack Snyder like 12-year-old boys ride for LeBron James. I respect the hell out of it.
Yeah,
that's awesome, dude.
Yeah. I will say, though, they really could have just filmed Zack Snyder shoveling money into a furnace, and it still would have been the exact same outcome, I think.
Probably. Yeah.
Doesn't he want to make more of them?
I hope
they're
so.
Not, they're not going to let him.
Like
they're not
7,
gonna let
aren't we?
We better.
And like a video game or something. It's a whole... Guys, it's Rebel Moon's world. We're just living in it. This media franchise is about to take the fuck off.
Say it again, dude.
Force feed it to people, dude. Who wants Rebel Moon?
Right on your home, on Netflix, straight into your fucking brain,
It
dude.
is such a fucking... It's so funny to me that Zack Snyder went up to Disney and was like, yo, I got this really sick Star Wars
It was
idea.
Lucasfilm at the time.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So the Star
Kennedy.
Wars with merits, he went up to them and went like, hey, I got this idea. And they were like, no.
Well, let's not pretend like Star Wars has had merit over the past,
That's true.
5 years or so.
The Disney was the nail in the coffin, I think, though.
That being said, I like Force Awakens and The Last Jedi.
I do too. Did you watch anything?
No, Sydney Sweeney dropped a thirst trap on
Yeah.
Instagram, and I saw
That's all I've been
but
watching all week,
it's-
dude.
It's been all over my feed.
Yeah.
Jorking, stroking, fucking, yeah.
I'm glad to
30
say
minutes.
I have no idea what.
Oh, dude.
I don't.
Don't corrupt
I'm
your boy's
a
mind.
loyal man to.
Do
So
not
I
corrupt the
don't
boy's
care. I don't
mind.
want to, but
Don't.
She's a
don't
gorgeous Aryan goddess.
God, that Aryan bosom.
Wide birthing hips. She is the ideal wife.
She's on.
Speaking of birth.
Oh, yeah.
What a transition.
There's the segue.
Speaking of things getting pregnant, let's
talk about fucking Alien.
Yeah.
So, in honor of the release of Alien Romulus, we decided to go back and watch the original run of Alien movies. So, spoilers for Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, and Alien Romulus.
Some goaded,
Or, no.
some less so.
Alien Resurrection. I'm getting my movies
we'll
mixed
spoil
up.
Romulus eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah, we'll get there.
And we're starting with the original, the 1979 Ridley Scott classic Alien.
What better place to start than the beginning?
Jordan, this is your favorite horror film of all time?
Correct.
I'm giving you the floor for the plot rundown of Alien.
So Alien is about the crew of the Nostromo, a commercial hauling vessel for the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, who are returning to Earth from some operation out in space when their journey is interrupted by a seeming distress signal of unknown origin that they are instructed by their company to go investigate. And when they investigate this distress signal, they get a little stowaway on board that comes back onto the ship with them. Possibly the most terrifying, ominous, foreboding stowaway you've ever seen, a creature so vile and bloodthirsty that only a cruel and indifferent universe could deign to let it exist. And so slowly, this creature, this alien, if you will,
Predator,
picks. We already did the Predator episode. Actually, listen to our Predator episode.
Nice plug.
I can't make any joke on this podcast.
I give up.
But the alien picks them off one by one, and they have to survive this ordeal, this encounter. And it's a perfect movie. It's I'm
this
gonna
is a perfect
go right
movie.
off the bat here and say this is one of those movies that like deserves the hype. You know what I mean? It's one of those pantheon, like, you know, you go to the Great Movie Ride in fucking Disney World, they got the whole set piece for it, like, and it belongs there. This is...
I mean, more on that, it's one of those movies that, like, if anyone tries to disparage it, you're just like...
Yeah, you're just like, what the fuck?
Are you
Like, that's, like, not liking this movie is one of the most pick-me movie opinions you could possibly have.
You're doing too much.
I'm going to say this on record, anyone who has Prometheus or Covenant at the top of your ranking was not loved enough as a child, is starved of attention, and needs a good slap. That's my big takeaway.
To be honest, this is the valid movie to have at the top of your ranking.
Like, this is
like
it's
yeah.
I think a good way to take this is that interview came out recently where Ridley Scott said he was so depressed after watching Star Wars because it was so good, and I love that he watched like this beautiful, inspiring, hopeful sci-fi story and decided to make the meanest, nastiest sci-fi movie like ever made at the time. This movie
that is better than Star Wars, by the way.
Agreed.
New Hope, probably.
Yeah.
So he won up the movie that he
They're
was
gonna
like,
come
damn.
for us, Kyle. The Star Wars fans are gonna fight
I don't
us.
give a fuck.
Yeah, fuck those guys.
This movie is so perfectly that it's one of the most atmospheric films ever made.
Looks terrific. The production, which I will say, going forward, the production design always top notch in every single one of these. That is like the one aspect I think that never wavers.
No.
In any
I
of
honestly
these.
don't know if this one has my favorite production design, but I mean it's fucking
That's
stellar.
a valid take. Like like some of the sets and some of the later ones are really cool, but like. The idea of like you can definitely see the Star Wars inspiration in like how the technology is futuristic but at the same time very like analog and of the 70s like all the buttons like click and like they look so satisfying to press. Everything's like chunky and kind of dirty
and the sound effects being like these
it's that's all like Michael Winslow sound effects like Police Academy.
It's funny to see how much this movie just carried on into Blade Runner.
Yes.
I believe that was his next movie.
Yes, it was.
And whenever we get to Aliens with James Cameron, how much of that movie goes into Avatar. It's just funny how like they both of the directors just took so much shit and just put into their next movie.
These movies, they cooked so hard with these.
They had to keep
the DNA of them carries on.
The same spice they had to sprinkle over, but
and it has this unmatched sense of like dread.
Yeah.
The main theme of this movie is so scary. It's just this piece of piano music that's so, and you were talking about the set design of the
Nostromo.
The Nostromo, but the set design of the inside of the derelict alien ship is so palatable.
I think that is where we got to give a shout out to H.R. Geiger, the designer of the alien and all the aesthetics of this. Like, he captures like the exact point on the grid where like meat and machine meet. It's so like biomechanical and alien, for lack of a better word, but in such an interesting and unique way that you can just see the influence in so much like adjacent media going forward. Like it's truly iconic stuff.
I think that, I mean, this is your favorite horror film. I think there's a lot of comparisons points to be made with my favorite, which is The Thing, in that it has a cast of characters. You couldn't call these characters deep, and yet you like all of them, and you want them to survive,
it's kind of
and they feel real.
It's kind of the same thing as The Thing, where they're all just kind of like blue collar. Like they're basically space truckers in this movie, just fucking like hauling cargo. Like they have no idea, except for the science officer Ash, who turns out to
and who is the MVP performance wise of this movie.
I Agree. Well, I've got to give a shout out to Jonesy the cat.
Real.
That's close up when it sees Brett get killed is incredible.
Oh, and John Hurt. His scene.
The chestburster scene is one of the most iconic sequences in any movie ever.
I was watching it and
I don't know if I ever picked up on like why it's so fucking disturbing, but like whenever it's out and it's like kind of like, you know, finally coming to life, there's like no score, there's no dialogue, there's like a scream in the background, but then it's just like silence of this thing, just like you hear it's like, and it's just fucking like, it's disturbing.
There's something so decidedly un-Hollywood about this movie, and like it's everything like is just so like blunt and matter of fact. Like the chest burster scene. I don't know if this was actually true or debunked, but there's like a famous thing that like none of them were told what was going to happen. Like on set, so that is their like genuine reaction to that happening.
So I actually read into that after watching it, and it's like they knew on paper what it was going to be,
but they'd never seen like the effect.
They had never
before,
seen it,
like...
and then the one actress didn't know she was going to get blood shot on her, and like so like it was a lot of genuine reaction.
And you
type
feel that
shit.
it goes into what you said, just that like that atmosphere of dread and terror, like everything works so synchronized to like achieve that tone.
And I think a lot of what makes this movie soar is the edit. The editing is fantastic. There's a specific scene that I'm thinking of where that chestburster scene is really the only graphic bit of violence we get. A lot of it is obscured besides that, but in a way that makes it creepier.
Yeah.
The death sequence of Parker and Lambert, where it appears behind them and is killing them, and the edit is so rapid between Sigourney running to them and them dying, and it's so unsettling and
like it's
jarring.
It almost makes the choice of like what you imagine it's doing to them is scarier than like what we can show, you know, because I think what is a big positive in this movie, and I think something that kind of gets worse over the series goes, I mentioned this to you when we were watching Resurrection, and it's a big problem I have with Prometheus and Covenant, which we will not get to because we didn't watch those. Yeah. The more you know about the xenomorph, the less scary it becomes. I think what works about this movie is that the xenomorph is just this unknowable
perfect organism.
Like it is just a killing machine. They are not qualified to handle it.
Yeah.
They know nothing about it, and it's going to kill all of them. Like there's something so just like, oh my god about that.
You know what's interesting about that? I kind of forgot to mention it because I instead mentioned Sydney Sweeney, but like I didn't finish the movie, but I did turn on Black Christmas again.
Oh yeah.
And like
it's a great movie.
When I think about Alien, I think similar to that. It's like slasher before slasher became a genre.
Yeah.
And the scariest thing about Black Christmas is that you don't know who this guy is, you don't see what he looks like, and maybe aside from like one or two kills, they don't show him doing any of the things he's doing. It's always they find the
left to the imagination.
It's the same exact approach, and I think it's just so goddamn.
And you don't really ever get like a good look at the thing in this movie, like the entirety of it.
No.
You, like up until the end where Ripley's on like the escape pod, you don't really ever get to see like a good shot of it. And I think that helps like obscure it because you never really get a sense of like how big is this thing? Like, oh my god.
Movie looks brilliant too. Like the use of shadows and harsh lighting. There's a specific shot near the end when she's the only one left and she's running to the escape pod and it stops her in her path and she backs to the wall and that red light hits her face. That's like
there's such a texture to all these movies.
It's a texture and a way. Even the way they film that alien planet with like the ash or whatever it is flying.
I think that's another thing that all these movies do really well, except for like. Well, I didn't watch Resurrection.
We'll get into that.
We'll get into that. But literally the only minute issue I have with it, and I don't know if this is true across all versions or there was something wrong with the Amazon version I rented, but like some of the dialogue mixing is very weird where like some of it's pretty muffled.
I think that also was just
it could be an age thing too.
Yeah. I think it's a thing of the
Did
70s.
you guys watch the theatrical or director's cut?
The theatrical.
Because I watched the director's cut.
Okay.
And
it has the scene with the cocoons in it, right?
Yes. That I felt like it was kind of just like she just looks at him and she's like, oh, okay. And then she just like moves on. It just adds a little bit more lore.
Yeah.
It doesn't dive into it. It's just like, okay, there's more to happen with these aliens, but she moves on. It's not. I mean,
it's more like expansive, I imagine.
Yeah, but
expands the...
it's actually shorter than the theatrical.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Yeah,
but,
doesn't he cut down on a lot of like because the theatrical cut has a lot of like these long.
Yeah, because it's been a while since I watched the original.
Shots.
I'm like, this feels a little different.
Yeah, like something's off here.
It's a little quicker pace.
Because I realized I put the wrong disc in. I was like, oh shit. But
you're like, well, I'm locked in now.
You still loved it though.
Yes,
and that's what matters.
I love the movie. Early Ridley Scott had the juice, man.
Dude.
He had the juice.
Ridley Scott still has the juice, if you ask me.
Time to time.
Yeah.
House of Fiction.
Did you see Napoleon?
I did not. Actually.
Napoleon was a good time.
I think I was in LA last year the weekend that came out, and it sucks because I was actually kind of hyped for that.
Cool.
Did we talk about this on last episode, or did we just have a conversation? I'm a big Last Duel guy. I think the Last Duel was awesome.
I remember listening to the episode. I feel like I was on that episode actually, because we talked about Halloween Kills. I think
you might be so right.
I feel like
you were at least around that time.
Yeah, we gotta go check the logs. But if you haven't seen The Last Duel, check it out. Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay. You showed that to me. I thought that was pretty good.
It's cool. Yeah. It's a cool movie.
But anyway, speaking of cool movies, Alien.
It's just like, what do you say about this movie that hasn't been said already? It's perfectly paced. It's perfectly structured. It just fucking works the whole time.
I don't use this term lightly, but it is a genuine, bona fide face melter. Just everything about it is fucking like it just shreds.
Face
hugger.
God damn it, dude.
No, but it's like, and it's one of those movies that just gets better the more you watch it. Like it is so. I mean, fuck. Like, what do you even say, dog? It's Alien. It's the horror movie. It's the sci-fi horror
We're about
movie.
to hop into Aliens. I think it's sacrilegious to think Aliens is better than Alien.
Segue. Well, let's give our rate. Or I guess, do we want to talk about? We never mentioned the Ash twist in Alien. Like so
that's important. To
just when you think no other element is gonna, just when you think this day could not get worse for these people. It's revealed their science officer, Ash, played by Ian Holm, like you said, unsung performance of the movie. He's so good in this. Is an android who was sent by the company, and their whole mission to get the alien was like predetermined. Like they knew they were gonna die. Like so they were like, fuck. And then they beat the shit out of Ash, and they dismember him, and just. Something about the insides of these androids is so uncanny and unsettling. I said it looks like spaghetti milk. Like there's something about it being
gross.
white is so like it does the uncanny valley thing in my brain. Like I'm like, oh, humans shouldn't look like that on the inside.
I'm not supposed to see something.
Yeah, it's real. Like I'm not supposed to.
Man-made
look at
horrors beyond my comprehension.
I would say like if I have like any actual criticisms, one would be there's a rough cut. In the scene where they're interrogating Ash when they switch from the prop head to the real head.
I know exactly what
There's
you're
a rough
talking
cut
about.
that I'm like, listen, it was the 70s, you can only do so much. And then when you finally do get a good look at the alien suit towards the end when Ripley fucking harpoons it and it gets launched out, the suit looks a little goofy when he's just kind of like, like swinging there. But again, like those are things you got to chalk it up to the time.
It's
you know
such
what I mean? Like they did the best they could with what they did, and everything else is so good that I can forgive like 2 minor wonky shots here and there.
I think there's a case to be made that sometimes that like adds to it.
Honestly, well, like it.
If you have a knack for like the '70s sort of,
we've kind of gotten to the point where people like don't see like those kind of effects as like corny anymore. Like now they're like endearing and shit like that.
It's
Like
the beginning of new filmmaking, though, man.
We will. I'm sure we will get into some of the visual effects of some of the later Alien movies, but I will take this over green screen composite Alien any day of the week.
God.
This is like a 7 out of 5. I mean, it's. I could sing its praises all day. If you haven't seen Alien. Get the fuck up off your ass and watch it right now.
Or
like, I don't know what
sit your ass down.
Sit your ass down. What's
watch a movie, dude.
Pause this podcast. Go watch it.
Stop listening. Back. Stop. Delete us off your phone. Watch Alien.
If you haven't already.
It is a 5. It's an easy 5. Yeah.
Across the board.
I'm gonna go 4.5.
I'm sorry.
Just because some of the pacing at the beginning is a bit too slow for my personal taste, but I understand.
And you watch the faster cut too.
Yes,
so.
yes, but I understand the build-up of atmosphere.
Yeah.
It makes sense, but just for me personally, I wish it went a little bit faster. But
You get a pass.
I do kind of respect how every Alien movie kind of takes that approach. Like every one of them, except maybe Resurrection, like it takes a minute for you to get to the xenomorphs. They usually play that pretty close, but
Which can be kind of a bummer as we get to, because like
You already know the fucking alien
yeah, but
as you go on.
see, they definitely do set up characters to get killed, but also just the characters themselves aren't always that fucking interesting.
my bad, Harsh.
So there was a large gap between 1 and 2, 7 years.
Yes.
And then James Cameron brought us Aliens.
Fresh off of the first Terminator
some
movie.
would say 56 years.
Oh.
I actually think it's 57.
He said, I'm actually beat him up, get him. I think, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Before we get into a plot rundown, I just have to say, I think this is a very long-running franchise. They've been milking this thing since literally the 70s. And yet, there has not been a more genius idea, like, put into this franchise. Like, of all the changes and crazy swings they've made, yet the simple notion of what if there were a bunch of them
Add an S.
is like changes the whole game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And yeah, so basically before Cameron went from horror to action on the Terminator franchise, he went from horror to action on the Alien franchise.
Decides instead of just doing the first one again, you know what I mean? Because I think he wisely was like, I'm not going to be able to improve upon this just doing a straightforward sequel. Mm-hmm. What if we kind of pivot a little bit and make this an anti-military industrial complex macho 80s action movie?
So in this one, after after Ripley goes in the cryopod at the end of Alien, she's basically in cryo for 57 years until someone finds her rescue pod. And she's rescued, and she kind of gets...
I think she gets picked up by Weyland Yutani, doesn't she? Yeah.
And she becomes part of an expedition down to a mining colony that was placed on the planet from the original Alien.
In the time that she has been frozen, like they've started colonizing planets and
she's like, I will agree to go with you to there if you agree we are gonna kill anything and every.
So they send her with a bunch of with a squad of space marines,
colonial marines, and from there it is an 80s action staple
that you did not love.
I like this movie.
Okay, let's get the bads out of the way, because I feel like we're gonna gush a lot about what this movie does right. What is it about this movie that does not work for you personally?
There's something about the first hour of this movie that just doesn't hook me. I'm almost passively watching it. I'm like, okay, some cool ideas. I like them, like the idea of the colonial marines. I like the idea of it kind of being an expanded version of the planet from the original film, but now like a whole colony. It's just, there's something about it that I find to be less atmospheric and less well-paced in comparison to the original film.
I will say, I've seen this movie about like 3 or 4 times now.
Yes.
The first time I watched it, I did not love it that much.
Yeah.
It's very like it is very much a slow burn until about the halfway point when the whole powder keg goes off.
Yeah, and I do like the second half of this movie. I think it's awesome. Yeah. I think there are...
For certain, I agree with you. The second half is definitely where this movie shines.
I think he cooks with the set pieces in the second half, and I think that the entire movie, James Cameron's technical wizardry is on full force, because this man, some of the shit he is able to do in '86 on an $18 million budget is crazy.
Yeah.
$18 million?
The original was 11, I believe.
Oh my god,
I love this movie, but I will say some of the visual flair from the first movie isn't... It's just not as crisp.
It's a different.
It's a different aesthetic for sure.
I will say, I think it's not that it lacks visual flair. I just think it's different.
It's different.
It's less like of that like grimy texture.
That's my thing. Is it doesn't have the texture, the aesthetic that I.
It's cool for sure. I love it, but I just the first one just had a little bit more for me at least. But
I guess I look past that in the change of setting. like the fact that the Nostromo is this dirty like trucker ship. Like I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But I do agree with you. I think there is a certain nastiness that is sacrificed in this movie. But I think it is at the benefit of making a movie that is just raw as fuck from front to back.
Getting into some of the stuff we like. First of all, I love all the expanding to the world building and
that's what
technology building.
That's what makes this not only like a great movie but a great sequel. Just everything, it just expands upon so much from the first movie. Like you learn so much, but not any more than you need to. Like it's just enough to feel like worthwhile.
The technology they add, all the different guns are so unique, and I love the motion trackers with that sound design, that boom. Yeah. It
which gives us my favorite scene in all of Alien history.
Is it when they're
when it's crawling above those?
Yeah. It's so good. He peeks up the fucking.
That shot is so.
That
good.
set piece is fantastic. The set piece with Newt and Ripley inside the lab.
Oh yeah.
Behind the glass is great. Yeah. And then obviously everything with the Queen in the mech suit is some of the most impressive visual design I've ever seen in one of these 80s movies. Like, I can't believe that it looks seamless when she's in a mech suit punching this fucking
like the
thing.
fact that it looks like it's
that is a concept that should not look good.
Genuine like movie magic.
Yeah.
You know,
you don't see the seams.
No,
the real movie magic. Bill Paxton.
Hey,
he's fucking
second episode
hilarious.
in a row that I'm on, and we get to gush about Bill Paxton. Let's fucking go.
You're gonna be on for every Bill Paxton episode now.
No, he's
when we do Tombstone, dude. We're the first person we call.
No, but the crew in this movie, I really enjoyed their banter back and forth at the beginning. They're not mean to each other. They're just bros. They're just bros.
And I think that is such a good evolution from like a bunch of truckers.
Yeah.
Because it still kind of has that vibe where they're still kind of just like, we're just bullshitting each other. like you can like in. We keep brushing feet. Oh my god. But it's interesting because they're woefully underprepared, but in like a completely different way. Mm-hmm. Whereas the crew of the Nostromo was like, oh my god, we're all gonna die. What
they're
the fuck
too
are we gonna do? Exactly. They're way overconfident. They're like, it's a bug hunt. We're gonna go in there and handle this shit. And then it turns out there's like 1,000 of them and they get their shit rocked. I have to say, I think Sergeant Johnson from Halo is really underutilized in this movie. Their drill sergeant is, I know it's not him, but it's clearly like, it has to be Halo. The direct inspiration, right? So good.
This is one of the 3 out of the 5 Alien movies we're talking about. My favorite character in it is an android character.
Oh, Bishop.
Bishop is great, dude.
Yes.
Bishop is awesome.
I wish he was in it more, honestly.
I agree with that. Lance Henriksen is so good at that part. Mm-hmm. I prefer.
Was it synthetic human?
Artificial human. Yeah. Line is just so great. Him playing Russian roulette, or not Russian roulette, the five-finger fillet.
Yeah. The fact that he missed just adds like that detail's just it's nice. Yeah, I like it. They're not perfect androids.
They're more human than you think.
His death is crazy. They just rip that fucker in half.
If you want to talk about James Cameron taking inspiration from this into Terminator 2, he does the same twist in Terminator 2 where the robot is good now. Like you expect it to be evil, but then it's like, he's actually.
And then, of course, you said his inspiration on Avatar. Dude, the fucking whole mech suit.
The whole Space Marine just like aesthetic.
Exactly. The color palette, it's like that bluish kind of look.
Yep.
He kind of cares.
Like Stephen Lang is like, if you split him into like 7 people, it's all the characters in this movie.
Just take the racist part out of it.
Yeah, just remove a little bit of the racism.
No, I agree with you. They're a fun group of characters, and Bill Paxton is one of the standouts.
The goat.
Who's that shithead? What's the actor's name?
Paul Reiser.
Paul Reiser. He's like such a douchebag.
He's like the corporate liaison to Wayland in this, and he's such like a shifty, and he's kind of in the he's kind of in the same boat as Ash, where he's kind of like going into this with the crew expendable because he wants to save the aliens so they can fucking.
They always do.
They always want to weaponize it, and they're like, "We need it for our DoD department." Like, what are you gonna do? Give it a gun? Like, what is the plan here? It's like the fucking raptors from Jurassic World. Like, what the fuck?
I must resist.
Yeah, please keep
Listening to this.
stow that shit, soldier.
Why does Newt talk the way she does?
Because
She's a British actor.
because she's a weird little space girl.
Uh,
That's just a space accent, Kyle.
okay.
Don't be racist. Come on.
Yeah. How much more do we have to say about Aliens?
I think the series peaks in coolness with the Alien Queen. I think
Sick
that
design, dude.
the
It's such a
design,
cool design.
just the whole sequence, like I think in terms of just sheer like, this is the sickest thing I've ever fucking seen. Like I think that is where the movie, that is where the whole series peaks.
Yeah.
I will say, adding Newt and having Ripley, their emotional bond in the movie just adds a little bit more.
It's a mother-daughter.
Yeah, exactly. I like that part a lot.
That brings me to a director's cut point.
Oh.
So there's a scene in the director. I haven't seen the director's cut in a minute, but I believe there is a scene where they mention Ripley has a daughter on Earth, which feels like the scene in Alien, where it kind of feels like a weird omission, where it's like, oh, that kind of adds something, I think, to her and Newt's relationship, and also adds a little bit more retroactively to her arc in Alien 3, I think, in terms of like motherhood and all that, which we will get into. So yeah, which obviously is made canon later by the Isolation game, but
Yes.
I think in terms of just the context of this movie, it just feels like a weird thing to cut out. Like I don't know, it would add a little more something to that relationship.
You didn't mention your favorite shot in this movie, which is Newt in the water and the alien coming out of it. It looks incredible, dude. It looks fucking amazing.
Sick as fuck.
Yeah, like I can understand how people who adore the first movie would not like this one because it is a complete tonal shift in like the other direction.
It's a different movie. It's a very different movie.
But
yeah.
In spite of that, it still manages to be like an excellent sequel, not only like an entertainment, just building off of what the first movie does. And like I said, just it just the simplest of ideas of like, what if there were a bunch of them now? Yeah. I think like that, like one change, like and it adds so much. I know I just got done saying the more I know about the Xenomorph, the less I like about him. But I do like the idea that
not when it's an action movie.
But
right?
they've added more to like the hierarchy of how it works. Like it's like a swarm, like an insect that has a queen that it like that produces eggs. You know what I mean? So I like that aspect of it, and I think this movie's just raw as hell front to back. 4.5. I do agree. There's some pacing issues in the first half, but I think. Once you get to that scene, that again mentioning Jurassic World completely rips off, where you're following all of their like heart monitors and like head cams, and they're shutting off one by one. Once that scene happens, the movie just takes the fuck off.
What do you got?
I'm gonna go 4.5.
Based as fuck. Let me see it. Yes, sir.
I wish I liked this movie more. I'm giving it a 3.5.
I think you will like it more the more you watch it.
I will watch it again for sure. I had fun with it. 3.5 for now.
Fair.
I like the movie.
I think I gave it a 4.5.
Yeah. Real as fuck.
4.
Everyone point and laugh at Kyle for being different.
He is
different.
I think he gave it a 4, but yes,
still better than a 3.5. Anyway,
and still a childhood classic for me as well.
A hood classic, if you will.
And that I just watched it for the first time.
Yeah,
so I had not seen it before.
This was my second time, and I definitely liked it a lot more my second time around.
I think once you kind of know what you're, because it is such a departure from the first one, I think kind of once you know what you're getting into, you can kind of vibe with it a little bit.
No, sure.
Speaking of things you kind of have to vibe with and get on the same wavelength though, a few years later, 1992, Alien 3, David Fincher doesn't want to be there.
Certainly does not.
He wanted to be there for a while, and then he did not anymore.
Dylan, do you want to give us the rundown on the plot of Alien 3? What happens in Alien 3?
Yeah, so Alien 3, Ripley crash lands on a prison planet. And to put it simply, because I'm not as good at this stuff as you are, she brings a guest with her.
A little stowaway.
And the planet is run by boys.
Like a weird celibate,
men.
like religious order.
Yeah. Men who refuse to fuck each other. Even though we all know if it was a boys' world.
Listen, I refuse to believe there was not any butt stuff going on that planet. Like, no, they definitely have.
I know the boys' urge.
They've gone spelunking before.
I know the man's urge.
So it's a prison planet that isn't active anymore. Like, it's not an active prison, but they've
Like,
chosen
they've, like,
to
left them in
stay.
charge. It's a bunch of prisoners who have like decided to stay behind. I
Well,
guess.
and there are also a bunch of like sex offenders and murderers.
Like, yeah, they have no place
They're
in
bad people.
So
society.
you mean to tell
like,
me there's no butt fucking going on?
Come on. The most unrealistic thing about these movies.
About the entire franchise. Alien.
So this movie was a classic hellish production.
Yeah. Stories old as time.
David Fincher was getting roadblocked by producers into doing certain things. It ended up getting shredded in the edit. So this version is.
He actually stepped away from editing for a while, and they had to bring.
So
it back.
the version that we get, the theatrical cut, is a heavily studio mandated version of the movie. I know that out there a producer's cut exists. That's a half hour longer. That's not what we ended up watching.
Seen it.
We watched the theatrical cut, and. Yeah, what you didn't mention in your plot is that this movie shits all over aliens by killing off Newt and them off screen.
Yes.
In the opening credits of the movie.
Indubitably.
So at the end of Aliens, Ripley escapes with Hicks and Newt. Hicks is like the leader of
and the top half of Bishop.
And one half of Bishop. And at the beginning of this movie, it's just like, yep, Newt and Hicks are dead. And that's kind of strike one, like right off the bat.
And
With
no
this
one
one,
happened.
I think
Well, there isn't
like,
even any like real emotional impact from it. Like
No.
when Ripley realizes that Newt is dead, there is sort of like a the dramatic moment of like, no. But then they just move on.
Like you can tell the filmmakers don't give a fuck, and that really like comes through. And I think that's kind of the whole thesis of this movie for me. Is it really comes through how much David Fincher does not want to be there and is just being put through hell.
It quite literally made him threaten, and I know it's his first film, but like knowing the director he became, he literally threatened to never make a movie ever again.
Could you imagine if this movie robbed us of like 7
an entire career?
like the whole
my God.
insane.
I will say that dumbass decision of killing them off screen does lead to my favorite scene in the movie, which is the funeral scene, cross cut with the dog getting the chest burster.
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool sequence. I want to get my positives out of the way first with this movie because I think it, like you said, production design on point. It's a different vibe. It's more industrial
But it kind of brings back that like grimy nastiest of the first movie a little bit. It
is, in fact, my favorite environment that an alien movie takes place in.
Interesting.
That's not a bad take, actually.
Environmentally,
it is. This movie, generally, and Dom actually said it in his review, this movie's metal as fuck.
Yeah.
Like, Ripley,
shaved head.
living in a boy's world,
Yeah.
shaves her head to sort of, like, be on the same playing field as them. And it's just, like, and...
Well, they got a lice problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also in a series full of feminist themes, I definitely think her shaving her head in a boy's world.
I'm glad that this isn't just another big move where they're just in a spaceship, just the same shit. I'm glad that
something different and
it swings, but
yeah, to a mixed effect. I think I believe there is merit to this movie. I do not think it is as bad as some people would have you believe.
Yeah.
I agree.
It has its moments, I think, but it's one of those movies that every time it takes a step forward, it takes a big dumbass step back, and it just kind of leaves you feeling nothing for the whole affair.
I want to get to you. You had set up strike one. I'll tell you strike two because the MVP of this movie is Charles Dance, who they kill off halfway through.
Shout out to Game of Thrones.
Dumb idea.
Because he is. They spend the first half of this movie developing two characters, Ripley some more and Charles Dance, and then they kill him
and their
off.
relationship is actually like kind of
And he's
intriguing,
giving a good
and you're like,
performance.
okay, like it's just
It's a bad decision.
yeah.
And but I'm with you. I was kind of vibing with this movie for a while. I thought the first 2/3 in general were pretty decent.
Yeah.
I was like, this is decent. It's got some texture. It's got some good performances.
And then
The last 20 minutes of this movie stink dog shit. It's
I
so
didn't
bad.
hate the last 20 minutes.
What?
I kind of fucked with it. It went so wacky.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, this is kind of cool.
Oh, you want to talk about wacky? We'll get there in a second.
I should have watched Resurrection, man. I probably want to fuck with that.
It's a time, dude. It's a time.
The thing is, it looks so bad. The CG alien is horrific.
Yeah.
I like the set piece where they're trying to trap the alien
cool,
in
yeah,
like
the
the piston.
lead, yeah.
Like I think that climaxes really well. And then, but like it's those last like 10 minutes that is just like, what the fuck are we doing?
You get the company coming in.
Yeah,
the weird Bishop thing. Yeah.
So Waylon Bishop, the founder of the company, like the human, shows up to confront Ripley before she. The twist in this movie is that she's been facehuggered. She's got an alien in her. I don't know why it takes her like a week to gestate an alien when it takes everyone else like an hour.
Yeah.
We won't get into that. So she's about to sacrifice herself to kill, I guess presumably the last one is the one that's inside of her. That's kind of what you're meant to, believe about that. So the thing about the Bishop twist. So, have you seen Alien vs. Predator?
No.
That movie, I think, is canon and is also set in the modern day and features Lance Henriksen as the same character. So, retroactively, it makes you just kind of go, huh, like, what the fuck?
No, that's more of that movie's problem for doing it later.
For sure, but it is one of those things that, like, and I guess it's just, like, it speaks to, just how convoluted this whole thing gets eventually, I think.
Ripley's sacrifice looks so bad at the end. Oh my god.
When the chest burster comes out while she's falling in, like, oh, dude, that is some 90s corn right there, I think.
And I'm with you guys. I like the concept of that scene with the maze-like doors and them trying to trap it in. There is no sense of geography to the edit you literally can't tell where anybody is in regards to anybody else. It feels shredded. And that's... You can tell a lot of the kills were also shredded in the edit, just the way they were edited. Like, because it is more violent than, like, Aliens. Like, there's, like, blood will, like, gush out over
more violent than Alien, too, I would say. Yeah,
but they always are cutting, weirdly cutting around it.
It makes me think, like, were they attempting to make it, like, less violent and gory? If so, why?
Yeah,
like,
so what?
It's kind of like not nearly in quality, but like Borderlands, where they clearly shot for a rated R movie, but had to make it PG-13.
And but this is still rated R,
still
so it's such a but it's such a weird like choice. Then, like, even if you didn't get it down to PG-13, then what did we do any of this for?
Right.
Like,
I couldn't even tell you what makes this movie extremely rated R.
Yeah,
they say
fuck. They say
a lot. Yeah, they say fuck
way too much.
Yeah, I guess.
The only other character after Charles Dance likes that I like is the one played by Charles Dutton is his name, I think, the pastor character.
Yeah, Dylan, I think is the character's name.
Yeah,
he's like the leader of this like religious cult, and he once he kind of steps up and becomes a more important character. I think that performance is a lot of fun. He's having a good time.
He's for real the only character other than Ripley that's like worth giving a damn.
Until Charles Dance until they kill him, but
yeah.
Part of me thinks that, like, so when I was watching Alien 3, I thought Charles Dance was going to be a robot. And part of me thinks that the filmmakers knew you were going to think that way, and that's why they decided to kill him, to subvert the twist. And it's just kind of like, like, all right, we're doing that? Okay. Like, I got to tell you, the past, like, 5 Alien movies have all ended in a way that's made me go, oh, we're doing that? Okay. Like...
Yeah. I don't know, man. It doesn't really... I feel like you haven't said a lot about just...
I don't know. I feel like I didn't really care too... Once, what was the actor's name?
Charles Dance.
Once he gets killed off, the movie just falls off completely.
There was like a checkout.
Up until the last 20 minutes, I kind of like go, oh, okay.
You did the sit-up.
Yeah, like, this is kind of fucking wild and crazy, but I did not really care for the religious leader.
Yeah.
He was, like, I liked how he and Ripley had their little, like, deal, like, oh, I'm going to help you, well, you're going to help me before I help you. That was cool, but other than that, I didn't care about the actual, like, them making the plan was fine, but then when it was put into practice, it took way too long. Just all those POV shots.
Just for it to not work out anyway.
Yeah, all those POV shots of the alien running, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but whenever it got to the shot where you would see an alien, it would, like, stretch out.
Yeah.
Like a weird fisheye.
Yeah,
like,
it was really weird. And
it looked like post-production fisheye.
Yeah, exactly. And the movie just got really boring. It slugged, and I just didn't care at all
I
for
think
this.
I think that's what this comes down to, is that this movie's just kind of fucking boring.
Yeah.
Like it lacks a certain spirit and energy, and I'm sure that comes down to the fact that David Fincher was not having a good time. Like when you're a director and your vibe is kind of like the driving force of the whole production, like that can seep into everything. And I think that like just how like dour and just kind of monotonous this movie is, just it really comes through with that. It's not without its moments. I don't think it certainly has its high points.
Yeah.
Charles Dance is a highlight. Like
when the alien is practical, it looks pretty decent.
That scene when it's right up on
the famous shot. Yeah,
that's awesome.
the shot.
That's
yeah.
really cool.
There really wasn't a point in making it a dog alien.
No.
That's a weird choice to not really like do anything of substance
with. It was just a way to get the alien into the...
Yeah.
For sure. But and it's like disturbing watching the dog fucking get chest bursted. Yeah. Like but that makes me think that that's the only reason they did that. Was because they knew you would be upset if you watched a dog get chest bursted, because the alien comes out and it's just like it's like kind of a dog alien.
Have you seen the video of them trying to practically put an alien costume on a dog?
It looks crazy.
So fucking funny, man.
If I ever get a dog, I'm gonna have to like take inspo for a Halloween costume. Yeah, Alien 3. What are you gonna do?
Wants you to care, but
you
can't get you to.
It's just whatever. It's fine.
All right, ratings.
Perhaps the most unremarkable of the Alien movies. I was at a 3. I think I may have talked myself down into a 2.5. I mean, again, I hate to use this word unironically. It's just mid. It is. It's kind of exactly what you expect from an Alien movie, but with none of the
flair.
It's missing like a panache. You know
sauce.
what I mean? Like
it's
missing the sauce,
the juice.
which is so weird to say about a David Fincher joint.
Yeah.
But it is distinctly missing the sauce.
Yeah.
I was at a 3 for a while. That ending did knock me down to a 2.5. So I'm with you.
I'm gonna go straight to. Didn't give a fuck after the halfway point, and it just went downhill up until the last 20 minutes, where my eyes went whoa, and then it went back down.
Take your eyes off the screen. I thought you were like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
but what do you got?
3. Big childhood classic, but just doesn't. It's like just the movie itself. It just doesn't do anything.
Like a 3 is valid. Like I said, it is not completely without merit. I don't think.
I was at a 3 for a long time.
But of the original 4, this is probably the one I would tell you to skip.
Yeah.
Like
I agree with that.
And obviously, there's like a continuity or whatever, but in terms of like if you can only watch 3, this is probably the one I tell you to miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that brings us to
Alien Resurrection,
a movie threatened upon us by Joss Whedon.
So only
what?
He wrote it.
He wrote it.
And you can tell. I was just saying, I had just gotten done, before we started Resurrection, I had just gotten done praising the restraint in a quote-unquote slasher franchise, the lack of hypersexualization of, like, Ripley or, like, any of the female characters. Like, every female character in these movies is a fucking badass.
Yeah.
And then we get to the Joss Whedon script.
Yep.
Which is... Kyle, do you wanna? So were we the only two that watched Resurrection?
All right, did not watch.
Let's get into this. Let's cut this fucker open.
Okay, so 1997, we got Alien Resurrection.
Peak Joss Whedon.
200 years after Alien 3.
Yes. So this is set like way off in the future.
And a ship clones Ripley.
Yes.
Based on DNA they found from the facility in Alien 3.
Yes.
Why do they clone her?
They clone her to get the fucking because when
because of the DNA.
So when they clone her, they're able to recreate the xenomorph that was inside of her.
Yeah.
At the end of Alien 3, and they harvest that out of her because that's what they want. And then they make like the moral decision to keep her alive because they're like, well, we don't want to kill her. Like that's kind of ethically dubious or whatever. So we'll, you know what I mean? Like you're gonna harvest DNA and clone a person to extract a fucking alien monster out of them. But you draw the line at like mercy killing them. Like all right.
And at the same time as this happening,
I love that thud, dude. It is like
It's that bird chest, dude.
bring that shit in clean. Shit.
at the same time as this occurring, a group of like what is essentially like space pirates.
Yeah, they kind
Kind
of have
of-
like a deal with the captain of the ship, or like they like exchange money under the table.
And while they're on the ship, everything goes to hell.
It becomes an alien movie. The alien, it's revealed the alien that Ripley had inside her was a queen specifically. And so when they harvest it, it's able to like grow and like it produces like a bunch of eggs, and they're like observing the aliens and keeping them like intact and everything. And in an actually pretty cool scene. So this movie is interesting because it's the smartest the xenomorphs have ever been.
Yeah.
They kind of operate like the raptors in Jurassic Park in this. There's a scene where like Brad Dourif, fucking Chucky from the Child's Play movies, plays one of the scientists, and he like gets it with a fucking like cryogenic thing, and then it like doesn't do it again. So they're like learning and adapting and shit. And so there's like 3 of them in a cell, and they kill one of the aliens and let it bleed all over the floor
In order to escape.
to melt the floor, and then the 2 of the other ones escape. And then from there, it goes about how you expect one of these things to go. That just turns into utter chaos.
This movie's crazy.
It like genuine insanity.
Like the a lot of it's at like Dutch angles and zoomed and like crazy like.
You can tell this movie was directed by a French person. It comes across like there are so many odd filmmaking choices. Like you said, like there's so many crash zooms in this,
Yeah.
and just the camera just going up right into people's faces, like just sweaty and fucking. But it's much like Alien 3, and even more so. I don't think this is quite as bad as people would have you believe.
I refuse to watch this movie.
I think we might be able to convince you.
Maybe.
It is a complete and utter tonal betrayal of the Alien franchise, and is a pretty indefensible character assassination of Ripley. As an Alien movie, it sucks. But as like a conventional run-of-the-mill slasher, perfectly watchable and kind of fun.
Yeah.
The effects are better than 3.
Genuinely looks better than 3 all across the board.
You have never seen a xenomorph more slimy than they
They
are
are
in these movies.
like
They're so gooey.
They overcompensate with the goo in this in a series that ultimately is about goo.
Yeah.
If we're
yeah.
I don't like the way that they look when they swim.
yeah,
I like that set piece
that
a
set
lot,
piece,
man.
though, because that goes
Such a
into
fun one.
when they're swimming, they break out of the fucking membrane, and then they realize the aliens left an ambush for them.
Yeah.
Because when they break out, there's a bunch of eggs like lying around, so they have to climb up this ladder. And I don't know, like I thought that whole set sequence, like I was like, you know what, this certainly, above all else, has more sauce than Alien 3, and
Totally
I think
agree.
that comes through a lot, especially in some of like the wackier
Dude,
moments.
there's a fucking sequence in this where somebody that they're tagging along with him that has a chest burster about to burst out of his chest grabs the villain character and brings him up to his chest, and it bursts out of his chest through
and
the
then a
head.
bunch of other people shoot him dead. Like it's
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys are. Dude, I'm kind of sold on
this
this shit,
movie's
dude.
kind of raw.
It's crazy.
So the crew of space pirates actually, I think, are probably more memorable and likable than the crew from 3.
I'd say so. They're all assholes.
Again, this movie also commits the same egregious mistake as Alien 3. Michael Wincott, who you guys have seen Nope, right?
Yes.
He's the
director.
cinematographer.
Yeah.
He plays the head of the pirate crew, and he's having he is just so slimy and like genuinely giving like a great performance. And then they kill him off
first.
really early in, like
Ron
just like Charles
Perlman's
did.
fun though.
However, Ron Perlman is going absolute.
Ron Perlman's in this?
He plays like the muscle of the pirate crew, and he's just a bastard. Like he's having such a good time.
Some
Just-
of his line reads are ridiculous.
what does he say? Like I thought synthetics were supposed to be all logical. You're just a big old psycho, girl.
Yeah, like that. He's insane. Winona Ryder's in this.
Winona Ryder is present.
Yeah.
Dude, low-key.
It's-
The
it's-
way you guys are talking about this movie, I'm low-key in. Like, I want to watch this shit, like, right
It's
now.
camp. It is camp.
So I mean, we're gonna spoil it. Winona Ryder kind of is very low key for a lot of the movie, and then she like dies and then comes back, And I'll tell you what, they fucking got me with the robot twist again. Like, we're sitting there, and then they she opens the wound and they reveal the white blood, and it's like, I can't believe I didn't fucking think it. Like, they got me too. They got my dumb ass. Like, but it's cool because they explain, like, all the robots have been, like, purged, and she's, like, one of the last, like, few remaining because that are still around. Because they got, like, too aware. Yeah, so they fucking shut that shit down. But, like, I don't know, man. Like
it's dumb. It's hella stupid, this movie, and the dialogue can get. We mentioned Joss Whedon. He has a tendency to things like, she's totally unfuckable, and I'm like, Joss Whedon wrote
Joss Whedon is ostensibly the worst part of this movie.
100%.
Should be guillotined.
Should be tried at the Hague for his fucking crimes.
But let me say, dude. They swing big with an alien-human hybrid at the end of this movie that is the ugliest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life.
Vile creature. Like, it is... Like, genuinely, I really like the design. I think it's...
He doesn't even, like... He doesn't kill people the same way. He just basically just eats their head.
Yeah, no, there's, like, something about the eyes... Terrifying. That is so, like, unsettling and uncanny that you're just like, oh, like it sends a shiver down your spine.
It just worked for me. It's silly. It's stupid. Not one of the best Alien movies for sure, but I think that a bit underappreciated is what I'd say.
I think also a big point against this movie that I think you could completely remove and it essentially stays the same movie is I really could not stand Ripley in this movie. What they do with her character is so weird, and it's telling from a self-proclaimed feminist such as Joss Whedon to it's just how he butchers. So Ripley being cloned and like being mixed with the alien DNA is like, I don't know. She like kind of like thinks and acts like one of the xenomorphs. Like she's not Ripley, but it is Sigourney Weaver, and it's just I think
she does a good job with the performance, but the character the
choices, like her inclusion in the story, is just so weird and misguided, and you really could take her out of the whole thing. I actually think, like, while this movie does have its campy moments, if you kind of take all of that out and remove Sigourney Weaver, and you just had a movie about this pirate crew like stumbling into a ship that had like managed to recreate the xenomorphs, I think you have a pretty solid, like, alien movie here, you know what I mean?
It does feel torn between a few worlds.
Yeah, but I think as it stands, like, it's better than Alien 3, and I think, like, listen, you put back, like, a six-pack, you know what I mean? Like, I think you can have a good time with this.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm giving this one a very strong 3 out of 5.
I am
I had a blast.
Right there with you. That was the whole time. Like, we were just sitting there, like is this actually kind of heat? Like,
kind of fun, man. It's not as bad as the reputation would lead you to believe. And that brings us to the new one.
Yes, many years later.
So
2 Alien vs. Predators and 2 Prometheuses later.
We get Alien Romulus. Spoiler free at the start for Alien Romulus. Alien Romulus takes place between... do you want to actually give the plot synopsis? You haven't talked about any of that.
Yeah, we'll pass you the baton.
No, I would, but I don't remember the beginning, like the specifics of what they're doing. You go ahead and take this.
So this takes place between Alien and Aliens in that 57 years where Ripley is in cryogenic sleep. And it follows... I gotta pull up names.
Her name's Rain?
Rain and Andy.
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
Priscilla
Presley.
Rain and Andy, who are 2 siblings on this shitty-ass... Yeah. On this shitty ass mining planet that looks like the worst place I've ever seen.
That caught me so off guard. I was like,
it's like the worst mining planet you've ever seen.
Yeah, no, it's just absolute shit.
Where you have to grind for like years to be able to leave, and then they'll just like increase your.
Yeah, like everyone is like owned by Weyland-Yutani on this planet, essentially.
And a group of Rain's friends basically approach her with, "Hey, there is a ship floating like just above the atmosphere of the planet. Yeah. It is going to and we're going to go up there and get the resources to put in our pod and just get the fuck out of here."
It just dawned on me that if you just replace the xenomorph with a blind man, this is kind of the premise of Don't Breathe.
It's just Don't Breathe.
Yeah.
It is kind of just the premise of Don't Breathe.
There's literally a scene in it where it's quite literally Don't Breathe.
No, that just dawned on me. Anyway, continue.
So that is the premise. They go up there to get their supplies.
What are they going to find?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, they
Oopsies.
a little guest, unexpected, perhaps.
So that's what I'll say for now without spoilers. This movie...
Spoiler, it's an alien on the ship.
Yeah.
You think?
This movie is not working for everybody. It's kind of a mixed reception on it. It really worked for me.
Yeah.
I thought that it did everything I want pretty much out of a modern alien movie. It went kind of back to the tone of the original film, which is just people walking around a ship and shit goes very poorly. Incredibly well shot. The visual effects, for the most part, are seamless.
Yeah.
Like, the actual alien practical and CG effects are phenomenal. The whole production design's amazing. I like the cast in this one. I think they all do a good job.
Yep.
I will highlight some others later on. And I think that the ramping up of the tension as it goes builds to a really intense and gratifying third act.
It's a very well structured movie. I
Yeah.
think.
And that's where I'm feeling now. I liked it a lot.
Same.
Yeah.
I really dug it.
I can't really get into what I didn't like about this movie without spoiling it.
We'll do a short spoiler-free section because
Basically,
there's a lot.
Everything in the movie that you see in the trailer is great. I think, like you said, like in terms of like capturing that tone and atmosphere that made this series so special and so original, like it really does hone in on that so well. And I think, like in terms of like recreating that, yeah, you're not gonna get much better than this. And genuinely, I'm gonna say it. I don't think the Xenomorph has ever looked better.
For sure.
And like there are some shots in this that are like, and I gotta give a shout out to the score. I think this might actually be my favorite Alien score. There's in the beginning there's like this vocal choir piece that is just, it reminded me of 2001. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about? Yep. Where it's like, oh, it gave me like those heebie-jeebies where I was like, oh, I'm in for it.
Yeah.
I thought this movie was okay. It didn't really gel with me. It felt like it was taking... It just didn't have an identity of its own for me. It just felt like it was ripping off like a highlight reel of the first two movies.
And that is the critique that you...
And it's like, it's not bad. Yeah. The performances are strong. The writing's okay. The visual effects are stunning. It's shot well.
I think it looks incredible.
It's just, I don't know, the aesthetic, the tone, and it just didn't add up for me. And it just felt like we were doing the same thing again, honestly.
It is one of the few entries in this series that doesn't really feel like it adds anything new. But at the same time, I get the need for a movie like this. I know this comparison is not going to make everyone happy, but like Dylan said it before we recorded, kind of like The Force Awakens, where it's like...
he said Force Awakens.
I
think more Rogue One like.
But where it's kind of like, this franchise has kind of gone off the rails a little bit. Let's bring everyone back in. Like, it's okay. Like we're not doing anything too weird up until they do. Like it's okay. Like it's safe. Like this is the alien you remember. And so like I'm kind of two minds about it, where I'm like, maybe like obviously this is gonna get a sequel. It made $108 million on an $80 million budget.
So like maybe like is crazy.
Maybe like a sequel is like where you kind of like go for something a little more new, but at the same time I'm kind of right there with you where I'm like, for the most part this is I compared it to it's like listening to an artist you love's greatest hits album.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna get anything new out of it, really. Like, but the hits are the hits for a reason. You know what I mean?
There were pockets of originality there. Like at the beginning, I liked just learning how the world worked and how these people lived. That was interesting. And then
that world looks
some cool expansions on like and how like Wayland Yutani kind of operates as a company.
And don't want to get into it because of spoilers, but the ending was awesome. I will admit it went off and crazy, but other than that, everything in the middle just kind of it felt like the same.
So, see, I'm of an exact opposite mind where the middle chunk is my favorite part of the movie. I think when this movie is just kind of being an alien movie and just reveling in the nightmare, and Fede Alvarez is just taking us through this haunted house, like a maze of all these like different set pieces and everything. I don't know, like that's when the movie really had me.
I'm gonna hit a slight disagree with both of you because, and I guess the internet, because I have heard the argument of this just feels like a greatest hits, and I don't know if I agree with that. because I think that this does enough to differentiate it.
Whereas
tonally, it does capture that alien, and you can see the similarities, but I think that there are distinguishing factors and distinguishing...
But besides, like, unique set pieces, though, what does this movie do that another Alien movie hasn't?
I think that the characters and how they interact just feels different.
I feel like, to me, it's just one character that is... I don't want to get into it, but there's one character that I feel like is, like, makes the movie stand out a little bit more than it should.
And I know who you're talking about, and I would love to get into it.
Other than that character, they're all they're fine. All the rest of the crews.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Like in terms of like the humans in the casts in these, I'd put them like smack dab in the middle.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like I think besides
Kaylee Spaney's great.
Kaylee Spaney's great, and can you pull up the actor's name?
David Johnson.
David Johnson is great.
He's my favorite.
He's my favorite, and we're gonna get into him.
And you know what? Dora.
Isabel Merced.
She's good.
Gets better as the movie once she kind of gets more to do.
And God, does she go? God, does she go through the ringer?
Can't catch a break this whole movie. The rest of the cast just kind of fodder, just waiting for them.
They're fodder, but they're good. But I still think that they're good performances.
They're good. Sure, they're likable, but and I think like. Yeah, and I think that's like kind of a criticism you could levy at like any of these movies is that the characters aren't like the most like mind-blowing three-dimensional characters you've ever seen. But I think here there is like I don't know, like when something is sacrificed, I think in the supporting cast to make the two characters we do actually care about so cool.
Yeah, they're all gonna be alien.
Yeah,
and
like
you can just tell by the way that they talk.
But at the same time, I don't know if that's entirely a criticism because when they do get meated, like it's awesome.
I mean,
like
in this movie, I think these characters have like there's a intention to their sort of community and getting the fuck out of this planet that like I think is good as opposed to and they do still have that like fucking like. Kind of banter where they're like talking shit to each other, but it's like there is a central.
There's a desperation because like what they're like, they have more of a goal other than just survive the aliens. Like there's kind of that desperation to get away from this corporate fucking nightmare.
They want to see the sun.
And so I do agree with you there that I do kind of like that angle where they're after something a little more than that.
They aren't just aliens.
The thing about this movie is the major criticism you can point to cannot be talked about without spoilers.
Yeah, do we want to get? I think we pretty much said everything we can.
Yeah, so let's hop into it.
3.5 out of 5 could go higher. I think my expectations may have been a little high for this one, being the Alien fan that I am. But I think, much like how I think knowing what you're getting into will make Aliens warm up to you. On rewatches, I think I will warm up a little bit. Like, I think those negatives will kind of wash away when I am once again faced with the sheer rawness of some of like the sequences in this movie.
Sure.
I'm gonna go with just a solid 3. I feel like if I want to watch something like Alien Romulus, I go with either the first Alien or Aliens. That's just where I'm at.
Fair. Sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to 4, a solid 4. I did pretty much everything I wanted it to, bar a couple flaws I have. I thought that this ripped.
Yeah, I'm at a 4 as well. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Cool. All right, let's get into the thing.
So they perform. You want to talk about the Rogue One comparison? They perform a little light
grave robbery.
Little light grave robbery. They introduce a character who is a variant of the Ash android that is also portrayed by the ghost of Ian Holm, recreated through deepfake AI technology.
Really?
No, I think it's I think it's a practical effect. Actually,
it's actually mostly practical,
which is crazy because it does not come across at all in the movie.
That mouth is detached from that body, dude. That mouth does not make sense.
Malfunction, Chuck E. Cheese.
Yeah.
Freddy Fazbear type beat, like.
And the issue comes in where you can cut that character.
Or just make him a different character.
Or just make him a different character.
What I was going to say was, like, that problem is completely circumvented if you just make it Bishop. because Lance Henriksen is still alive.
Yeah.
So at least you dodge because it's not even Ash. Like it's a different robot.
It's Rook.
Like if you just make it a Bishop variant,
that would have been so much better.
You completely circumvent that more ethically dubious usage.
That gets into my complaints about the movie. It just feels like it's a crowd. Like it's like, oh, let's take pieces from the first movie in the second movie, and we'll get a reaction out of it. Yeah. The biggest sin of this movie is the fucking get away from her, you bitch. Why the fuck would he say that? Why?
And you know what the worst part about that is? It comes after the
coolest
set
moment
piece in the movie.
The 0G shit, that was awesome.
That's probably the set piece I think most people are talking about. There's a bit where they get their hands on some guns, and she's shooting a bunch of xenomorphs.
Her dodging the acid was fucking sick.
On the space station, there's kind of a gravity mechanic where they can shut down to 0G, and so
which
they have
set up very well.
They have to float through this corridor, dodging the acid blood as it's all floating around, and that's
And then it's that whole elevator set piece, and he drops the elevator on him and jumps down with the gun, and then he says that line, and it's just.
And you know what? I wouldn't be as annoyed if it didn't do that fucking MCU thing. Where they leave a little pause afterwards for the audience to, oh, I remember that.
It's just like an SNL skit when the celebrity guest comes out. It's like, hey everyone. It's
I was expecting the fucking the canned applause.
Yeah. And like you said, circumventing the problem by just making it Bishop instead. If they had just left it at get away from her, I would be less offended.
Yeah.
If get away from her, okay, it's a little reference. Why did they have to
the fact that it's the exact quote.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes sense because... Oh, sorry.
Well, it's also he says, get away from her, you bitch.
And I get I get what they're trying to do because that character has
a stutter. If they were going for a joke, it doesn't come across
That's the thing.
But
I guess, but also he has no reference for why that was said in the first
why
place.
Is he quoting?
And if that implies that he just is saying it off the dome.
Yeah.
So why the fuck is there that weird awkward pause?
It doesn't make sense. It is by far the weirdest singular moment in this whole movie.
100%.
Since we're talking about that scene, do we want to get into his character? I'm forgetting the name.
Andy.
MVP of this movie. He absolutely killed it.
Genuinely gives a great performance. So
my favorite android performance in all the movies. By the way,
I agree.
Okay,
I agree with that. He's so fucking.
I think I like Ian Holm.
I understand.
Oh, okay.
I think that is
I understand the character is probably more both nostalgia and also just iconic, I guess. But there is an actual performance in the way that this guy fucking morphs his face.
Yeah.
That is so. I've never seen anything.
There's a really cool moment where he's resetting. And his eyes flip back into the Wayland logo. And it's, I don't know, something unsettling.
His hands are just
that expression.
He goes through so much because in the first portion, he's basically the sibling of Rain who has been with her since she was a child.
He's malfunctioning too, so he's kind of timid.
He was programmed to always do what's best for her.
Yeah.
So he's her protector.
That is his prime directive.
And he is also the main reason that Rain is summoned to help them with this shuttle up or this space station.
Because Andy's who they actually need to get into the
They
station.
need an android.
And they do kind of a cool thing that I don't think they commit enough to, where they take Rook's, the new Ash's brain chip, and they put it inside of Andy, and once they do that, he slowly starts to become more malevolent. His prime directive
for the
changes.
Company.
Now he's working for the company. And I think if you just hadn't included Ash as a character and just had him put the brain chip in there and he slowly starts to become more like Ash, I think that would have also been a completely effective way to get the same idea across and maybe commit to that turn a little more, because that whole issue is just resolved very quickly and neatly. She just walks up and takes it out at some point, and it's just kind of okay, it just and then it retroactively just makes the whole choice of including Ian Holm all the stupider. What was any of that for?
Right.
You know.
Now his performance after the shift is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so good.
He's incredible in the movie. I think.
This is the star-making performance of the movie.
And again, gotta shout out Kaylee Spain.
She's great.
She's
very
fucking
good.
impregnate me, dude.
She's so fucking hot.
Isabella Merced, is that how you pronounce it?
I believe so.
Merced
goes through the fucking
delivers one of the best horror screams in maybe the last, 15 years.
Wish she was in the movie more. She got sidelined for most of the second act.
Yeah.
But her scene when she's giving birth to that weird...
I guess that will bring us to the third act. So, like I said, this movie doesn't get weird until it does.
Yeah, that's where I fuck with it.
If you thought this movie was only taking from the originals, no. It's getting its Prometheus on, too.
And it's Alien Resurrection.
And what I will say about that is I think I respect that choice more than I actually like it. There was a part of me that kind of checked out.
Yeah.
Because I've always kind of been a little when they get into the human experimentation aspect. And I think again it kind of goes into that thing where it's it partly just makes the xenomorph more knowable and if it's you know what I mean. And it's just part of me if we're gonna commit to just doing the first movie or Aliens again, a part of me kind of just wanted a proper xenomorph in the end, you know what I mean? And again, I respect the choice. I will always respect a weird swing like that.
He looks great too. I like the design.
The design's cool. I think he's scary. I think the set piece is entertaining. I just think conceptually it was kind of another moment where I'm oh, we're doing this? All right. Okay, I guess, sure. I just it's weird, but like I said, it's a swing, and I have to admire it.
Listen, we talked about that set piece that set piece at the end is great. We talked about the 0G acid blood. That's fantastic. I really like the set piece where they have to match the temperature so the face huggers don't recognize them.
That's just don't breathe. That's what I was talking about.
I was gonna say they do it's the World War Z scene where Brad Pitt shoots himself and has to walk through but it's better. I think.
Except without the Pepsi.
I love how
one of the face huggers just cracks one open. Oh man, I love he's got the logo facing the screen and everything.
Speaking of face huggers, I love how scary they are in this movie. There's so many of them.
That is kind of one thing you lack a little bit in some of the later ones.
Yes.
Is the lack of face hugger action. Those are just as, if not, those are just as scary as the xenomorphs. I think, and I think. Yeah, just the utilization of that scene where there's just so many of them just creeping around.
And I said that this movie was kind of hearkening back to the tone of Alien, the original.
Yeah.
I'd also say it's hearkening to the tone of Alien Isolation, the video game.
Yes, that is clearly a huge inspiration.
Yeah, Fede has said as much. And yeah, you feel that the creepy android stuff that he's doing, as well as the xenomorph stuff, how gnarly and mean it is. There's a kill, there's a couple really good kills in this. Again, the birthing scene is crazy,
which we still haven't fully described.
What's
going on with that.
I'll get back to that in 1 second. But the kill where that one douchebag gets the acid blood slowly trickled on him and his bones are melting
is crazy.
Fucking awesome.
And that I think that actually goes into my favorite moment of the movie, which is the birth of the first xenomorph when it just it's the steam coming out of its and all of its fingers crack into place and shit. That felt like the fucking Undertaker coming back to the ring after 30 years. I saw that tweet earlier where it was the xenomorph showing up every 10 years to remind you she's that bitch. That's exactly what that moment felt like to me.
So you want to
I guess let's go in depth in the end here.
What the android Rook wants is this space station was kind of for research purposes, and they experimented with xenomorph DNA.
They find the corpse of the xenomorph from the
the original film.
It's been fossilized out in space, it's been encrusted.
And so they experiment on him and make these serums out of his DNA, blood, whatever. And he wants these to get back to the mining plant
so they can weaponize it
and
give it a gun.
And at a point, Isabel Mersad's character is dying. And they talk about maybe injecting her with it to save her life, but they don't. And then she does it to herself a little later. And basically,
she's pregnant, by the way.
She's pregnant, and it turns her baby into a monstrosity.
The egg, 5 feet across, comes launching out of her.
It is vile.
It's hard. It really does. I think the last 20 minutes of this movie like Prometheus is the blueprint. Like it reminded me so much of the C-section scene from Prometheus. Like it just is hard to watch.
I mean, it is. It's the same sort of design. It's that like alien humanoid.
And the face of it does like actually really look like the engineers from Prometheus. Like that had to have been.
I think it was
a semi-intentional choice.
Like,
oh
yeah, 100%. And it's disturbing to look at, dude.
It's rough.
Like the design of it, I think.
Really good jump scare with him near the end.
When she's like climbing back up on the rope.
Yeah,
that was
cool.
cool.
Like headbutting.
Somebody pointed out a moment where like it like smiles at her at a certain, and you're like, oh, this thing feels like it enjoys what it's doing.
There's a monster in Resident Evil 4. It's like this big blue fucking thing, and you're supposed to like shoot it in the stomach. But the design of it is that it's just got this fucking smile on its face, and it like launches itself at you.
I was kind of giving this.
It reminded me a lot of that.
Yeah.
I wish I could have body slammed it like in Resident Evil 4. Batista vomit.
When they slit my goat Andy's throat.
No!
Damn it.
But they can still fix him in the sequel.
They have the technology.
They can fucking clone Ripley.
That's what I'm saying.
If they give us Andy.
Did Isabella Merced live?
No,
she died. Okay,
she got like stabbed.
Yeah, you're right. I couldn't. I was trying to remember. I was like, did she make it after giving birth?
No, he crawls up to it.
Yeah, you're so right.
So overall, I mean, I like the movie. Those set pieces rip. So once it gets going, I don't think it really slows down.
It's one of those movies where, like, I sit here and I'm like, all the praises I agree with, and all of the criticisms I agree with. Like, it is. But like I said,
it's how much those criticisms affect your.
Like I was gonna say, like now that I kind of like know, like I know that they're doing the whole CGI Ash thing, like because that was a surprise to me. I did not know about that going in, so like that was kind of like, oh, but I think this is a movie that ultimately its merit and its positives will outshine the negatives.
Yep.
Even though the negatives do kind of put a bit of stink.
They're loud.
They put a bit of a stank on everything, I think.
See this shit in premium format in Dolby.
See this
awesome.
in IMAX. Like this is maybe the IMAX experience of the summer. Like,
if you're okay with missing a few lines of dialogue, that is.
That is true. So we saw it at a Dolby screening, and I think this was also a combination of some of the characters being British.
Yes, it was.
I could not understand like the first 15 minutes of dialogue. Like when they were setting up this plan to like go rob the place,
That's why I had Kyle describe the plot synopsis, because I had no idea what the fuck they were saying.
Said,
It needed subtitles because they had thick accents and like they're on the noisiest planet ever. This
the racist one was like, "Oh, I probably got a guy to space station, and I'm like, "What the fuck did you just say?"
So go see it. It's awesome. We all recommend to varying degrees.
I think this would land like smack dab in the middle of my Alien ranking.
Yeah.
Not as good as
higher than it is on a lot of people's for me.
Not as good as Alien or Aliens. Better than Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, I think.
Cool. Maybe one day we'll talk about Prometheus and Alien Covenant, which there is a lot to say about.
That is true. Those movies are those are wild.
That's the episode.
We've concluded.
Thank you for joining us.
I am honored to be on. I love this podcast.
Friend
You're
of the show.
Biggest fan.
Now, Harsh, if you could put your face really close to that slimy alien egg we have sitting over there, if you could just get your face as close as possible to it, that would be great.
So next week, we are going to be talking about the remake of The Crow. So we will also
yeah, you know how we just gushed about bangers for like an hour and a half,
But we'll also be talking about the original Crow.
That's true. The movie that killed Brandon Lee.
As well as potentially the new Zoe Kravitz directorial debut, Blink Twice.
Blink Twice?
Blink Twice.
Don't worry, darling.
So that's what we got for there. If you like the podcast, you can follow it on Twitter at Cinema Shakedown.
If they like the podcast. We know they like the podcast.
When you like the podcast, you can follow it on Twitter at Cinema Shakedown and Instagram at Cinema Shakedown Pod. And you can follow me personally on Twitter and Letterboxd at Kyle Craigbaum. That's KRIEGHBAUM.
And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at J_Dennis99 or on Letterboxd at my name, Jordan Dennis.
And you can follow me on Instagram and Letterboxd at The Slope God.
And you can follow me on Letterboxd and Instagram. And I think it's just Harsh Jaswal, but
all right, Harsh, you got 10 more seconds. Anything to promote? Anything to put out there for the people? What do the people need to hear?
This camera.
Rebel Moon Director's Cuts Part 1 and